Hello, everyone. I'm Sneha, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Experiential Conversation series, The Father Who Decided Everything. This topic is very close to me. And in fact, the moment when, I had to deliver this webinar, there were frequent changes in my space. Like this webinar initially was designed for 31st of August, and I had to travel. And I didn't even notice the flyer and assumed that I have changed the dates. It was only one of the participants said that, you have not changed the dates. Today, Payal messaged me, is it 11 or 11:30? And I realized that a part of me is still frozen in that time, that the moment I have to speak of my father, as a human, the child in me is torn apart because a part of me is very faithful to him. And the other part of me, the adult part of me, sees him as a person with his own flaws. So earlier I thought, because my periods are due the next week, I thought it's because of the PMS, I'm experiencing brain fog. But now I realize that this is how unconditional a child's love is. Like growing up, my father was highly controlling, very critical, very authoritative. It's not that he never loved us, he loved us immensely. I mean, the kind of living standard we had, it was unmatchable with the entire family. We would get the best of toys, the finest of dresses, the fanciest of restaurants we will visit at that time, whatever it was available at that time. And we would go to English medium schools, while few of my cousins didn't even have the chance to go to school. So he definitely, in his own way, ensured that we get everything which we want or which he desired to give for his kids. But at the same time, despite this love, the emotional availability was a question mark, especially when I was a very young child. Like he would keep on criticizing us. Like I still remember that when I was approximately 5 or 6 year old, and I went to him and showed a drawing to him with all that enthusiasm a 5 year old could have, because they have created such a majestic piece in their own mindset. And he said, line सीधी नहीं है, कलर बाहर निकल गया है, ये वो है, वापस से जाकर बनाओ. And I did it again. Second time I went, he found another mistakes. Then I did it again. After third time, I didn't show him. In his mind, he was believing that every time I criticized her, she became better. She improved. And he was doing it with the best of his interests. But the child in me started believing that I'm not good enough. No matter what I do, I can't please my father. And from there, now when I have done so much of inner work, I can look back and recall that from that time onwards, I started devoting my entire life to please my father. I made all the choices which could possibly make him happy. Like initially, I used to dream of becoming a doctor because of some incident in my childhood when he said that if there is one doctor in the family, the whole family's life is sorted. And I decided that I'll become a doctor. But I didn't fare well in science. And since I couldn't, I decided, but my maths was good. So I decided that I'll become, and by that time, my father was into Vastu consultancy as well. So he had to struggle a lot with architects to design the blueprint or the map of the project. And I had seen him spending nights with architects. Those times, the AutoCAD was not available. Gradually, with AutoCAD, then he had to struggle with two people, one who was very well in software and the other person who was an architect who can design. and then guide the software person. And then I decided I will become an architect because that is how I will be of use to my father. But then, as luck would have it, I scored good in maths, but I didn't scored good in science. So my admission was denied. I wasn't given PCM. And then I thought, I'll become CA plus MBA and I'll head a big corporation, big multinational corporation, and I'll have power and money in my hands, and that will make my father happy. But as life would have it, the moment I finished my MBA and I scored really well, getting gold medal throughout my academics, again, to please my father. I have to be that all-rounder. I got nominated as the best student and I secured the best placement in my college as well. But then my father eventually decided to marry me off before my MBA finished. So he fixed my alliance and I didn't say no. It was just a biodata that time, एक black and white paper में biodata होता था and एक picture आ जाती थी. So I just said yes because that was the best what my father thought. So when you're raised by a critical parent, I didn't know it that time, but now I can realize, especially a father who is very controlling, very highly critical, the father also ensures that the child keeps on remembering the sacrifices he has made. The father will keep telling whenever there's an argument or whenever I had something to say, he will tell me a kind of emotional blackmailing that I have done so much for you. I've spent, countless nights having only one meal a day so that I can provide for you. I had taken so much of work so that I can fulfill your wish to study in good institutes. And when these things a child keeps on absorbing, hearing, what happens essentially is that there are two things happening in a child's psychology. One, they start hero worshipping their father and they start rejecting him internally. I start hero worshipping that whatever my dad decides, I started believing it blindly that whatever my dad decides is the best for me. Even if it doesn't align with me, doesn't feel right to me. And I could not hear if someone else would say anything about my father. I would fight with them that how could you say anything about my father? So you hero worship them, you simply believe in them, you just take them to the stature of God that he does the right thing. He's absolutely right. Another thing which happens, which becomes the shadow part of us as we start growing up, is because of so much of control, because of so much of judgment involved, the shadows of us start developing. We start becoming highly critical of ourselves. We start having doubts, like even a small thing, like choosing a dress for myself. The background thought would be, would it be liked and appreciated by my father? Or would he say something? कि ये क्या पहन कर आ गई है? The kind of friends I would hang out with. I had this, background thought that if they meet my father, will my father say something wrong about them or wrong about me? I will not hang out with people. I mean, I'm going to be 38 and I have never went to pub. I have never went to clubbing. No, because simply it was not in the dictionary of my father to be considered as appropriate. So now I want to do all of it. But this is how our shadow develops. We start sabotaging ourselves to such an extent that we become highly critical of ourselves and we start shaming others because we have developed this lens borrowed from our father. If my father didn't approve of western dresses, internally I would also shame girls who would dress that way. Even though one part of me wanted to belong there, wanted to dress like them. Similarly, if someone has done someone was into relationship, they have a boyfriend, I would internally start judging them. I may not say it openly, but internally the voices will start that how can she do this? Another thing which happens is we start oppressing ourselves because the father decides everything, and we whatever we have to decide for ourselves is also filtered by the lens of our father's perceptions, thoughts, and views. What happens internally is we start oppressing ourselves, and that oppression leads to a abuse which we have for ourselves and others. And this abuse may not be violent in nature, it may not be physical in nature, but it is in the form of self sabotage, judgment, and later this oppression results in anger. Like we'll get angry, we'll have frequent bouts of angers as if no one understands us. And then deep resentment for people who could have it easily. We may not say it openly, and we also may know that, other people's success has nothing to do with us, but there is slight tinge of jealousy or resentment brewing inside us. Sometimes we are even unaware of it. What happens when the father is very critical, who decides everything, who controls every aspect of our life, is that we become like closed. We create a shell around us and do not let anyone enter. We choose not to become weak or vulnerable because being weak or vulnerable allows the other person to dominate. Because in our mindset, the only way a relationship can function is one person being dominated and the other person dominating. There's only this perpetrator victim mindset going on in our internal relationship, internal landscape of relationship, and therefore we simply do not choose to allow people to genuinely care for us. We become hyper independent, we become achievers because when the father is critical and we try hard to please him, we become critical of ourselves and we keep on pushing us and motivating ourselves. We are self motivated. We don't need any external motivation. We are self motivated to perform, to achieve anything at any cost. We'll not think of how burnt out we are, whether we are liking it or not, whether this is of our interest or not. It's just we have to become the best so that we can be seen. And seen by whom? By the world, maybe on the surface level. Because that world, when the world will appreciate, my father will feel proud of me. And what happens as a result of all of it, and this is especially true for females, because the way they experience their father, they experience all men in different forms in their life, be it friends, be it colleagues, be it partner. And because a part of us, the shadow part of us, rejects our father for being so critical, for being so dominating, for being so critical, we eventually attract men who are of similar nature, who dominates, who controls. And even though we know that this is not we like, because now we are an adult and this doesn't sit right with us. We have a brain, the cortex is fully developed, and so we have words as well. And we show our displeasure We can understand that this is toxic, yet we are unable to move out of this relationship. Yet we tolerate it. Yet we make those compromises again and again, again and again, not because that the other person deserves a chance. It is because this behavior feels safe to my body. Because this behavior reminds me of my father who loved me as well. And therefore, I tend to keep on overgiving. I keep on overdoing, fixing everything in the relationship, being the peacemaker in the house, because I essentially am looking for that validation, that approval, that sense of self through other people, which I desired from my father, right? And this is essentially what happens, that my love for my father and my need to stay connected with him results in betraying myself time and again in order to get his approval. I repeat that again, that my love for him plus my need to connect with him results in betraying myself again and again in order to get his approval. This, although, in systemic world, we say that the father allows us to show up in the world and the mother allows us to receive in the world from the world, because the father was critical and we have this inner critic inside us which is a replica of our father, because we have to carry him inside us, we cannot live without him. So that inner critics become his replica in our internal world, in our lives, and therefore we struggle with confidence. Sometimes we are overconfident that we know so much. I mean, I've done so much. I'm the best. And this also results in shaming others, because that is how my father did to me. He shamed me whenever I wasn't enough, according to him. And therefore, in my internal landscape, I'll start shaming others or judging the people by what they can perform. And this had been my biggest struggle, to accept people as they are. I mean, I have been on this deep inner work journey for 5 years, and I still get a glimpse of mine where I am judging the other person. It's so deeply ingrained that after doing so much of work, I still find myself judging the other person time and again. And 90% of the times, I judge them on their skills, because that is how I was judged as a child. Sometimes we are low in confidence, sometimes we are overconfident, over ambitious, and yet we feel lost. We find it very difficult to find a purpose in our lives. I mean, I have done so many things. I have done my MBA, I have taught finance to MBA students over a decade. Then now I'm a therapist. I have done all the advanced courses from God of Sir, few from Susie Tucker. I have extensively researched systemic work from Mark Wolin, Bert Hellinger. I have learned pencil sketching on my own, and I have created hyper-realistic graphite images. I am writing a book. I mean, I have done so many things. And I'm sure all of us have experimented and achieved a lot in our lives in different spheres, yet it never feels enough. It's like, I am, I know I have a purpose in my life, yet I feel lost. I keep on finding new ways to upgrade myself. Like now, astrology has become my fascination. So I keep on reading about astrology, about past lives, about karma. This has become my new fascination. And yes, these things helps us, right? These coping mechanisms help us. Makes us well read. It allows us to go the depth which we would truly like. But there is a part of it that we are lost. We are simply questioning our existence time and again. We are trying to find the purpose of our life. We are trying to find the meaning of our lives because we were not validated for who we were as a child. Despite the movement I have made towards my mother and father, and in my internal landscape, now I can hug them fully and become a child and cry like a baby in front of them. It took me 4 years to do that, to make that internal movement in my internal landscape. Yet, these coping mechanisms still stay. It's just that I've become aware of it and I don't now burn out myself. I question myself time and again. Am I doing it because I'm really enjoying it, or am I doing it to please someone, to find that validation from others? So that awareness is built. Yet I keep on performing or achieving something in order to be loved. And this comes in different forms. Like I may perform in order to seek that appreciation from my teacher, from my colleague. I want to do certain things so that I could be well respected and seen by my husband. So it comes in different ways. And sometimes we may not be even aware of it. It is so instant, it's so ingrained inside us. Yet it is nice if we just keep on checking why I'm doing it. If we just keep on questioning our intention behind it, that allows us to find that is there an inner child inside us which has still not made the movement towards the Father, which is still fragmented in a way or the other. Another thing which happens is we find it very difficult to trust the world. We find it very difficult to trust relationships, trust men in particular, because the way we have experienced masculine, the first encounter is through father. So if I've seen my father as using abuse, using criticism, using spankings, shouting, and getting gifts as a way of showing love, I would find it very difficult to trust men who are genuinely loving in nature, who genuinely give me that space to be myself. And this I realized lately when I met a friend, and this friend was a true gentleman in all the aspects. And I found it very difficult to feel safe with him. Even if it isn't, if we are chatting on WhatsApp or maybe we are meeting virtually because he doesn't stay in the same city, it took me a while to understand what is happening with me. I can confidently speak in front of thousands of men. I am not scared. But when a man is being gentle, I feel difficult to trust that person. In fact, if you will notice, like this is what I do usually to find out my inner children, that I see my current relationships and dynamics, and like I have three good male friends. And I see why I'm so close to these people other rather than the other classmates of mine. And I was quite surprised to realize that they all mimic my father in a certain way. The gentleman whom I'm talking about, who is a true gentleman, he shows that concern the way my father used to. Whenever we were ill, he would take us to the doctor. He would, he was very fond of home medicine. So he will make those kada himself. He will press my legs. He will apply oil on my legs. And he will do all of it. When I was growing up, he will make paste from, I don't know, there is this wooden apple, which is known as beel. It is a summer fruit and it is meant to cool your stomach. So, he will scoop out the pulp of it, mash it with milk and strain it, and then he will give it to me that apply on your face will start glowing. These are the things which my father used to do. And this friend of mine, he's exactly like him in those ways. He will ask me, he will just judge my mood. You know, would you like to have some ice cream? I'll send some ice cream for you. Or he will just send me a random text or a joke, making my mood happy. Or maybe he will talk some funny things and he'll make me smile and he'll make me laugh. So he is that father of me, that part of him. Other friend of mine, he is that stubborn father of me. He will keep on scolding me. काम नहीं करना है तुझे? 2 दिन से खाली बैठी है. Clients नहीं लाने हैं. And he will keep on shouting at me. Why are you wasting your time? Go and study. तुझे best बनना है. And he will do it in his own way as a friend. And I saw my father's image in him as well. Then there is third friend of mine who is very indifferent in the sense that no matter what I achieve, he will not say anything. He will always say, I know you will going to do it. This was so easy for you. If you would have done this, then I would have celebrated. He will become that critical father of mine. My spouse, even though as a wife, I may reject him on certain grounds, but he exactly replicates all that I had rejected in my father. He's that dominating person who wants to control everything. He wants to know everything in the house, what has come, what I have bought, who has come. And it's not that he is mean or something. He will get angry if his words are not followed. But what essentially I'm trying to say is that we attract men in different form, the way we have seen our father in different forms. Like my therapist is also my father, the wise father. And in fact, I have worked with so many therapists, but the longest I have worked with only male therapists. And they are those wise father of mine that who will help me and find it. It's not that he was always emotionally unavailable. When I was going through the most difficult time of my life, he guided me on certain aspects. He helped me overcome my problems. He would support me in his own ways. He would tell me to be patient. He would, when he couldn't do anything, he would tell me to chant, to do prayers. I mean, he will do anything in his own knowledge to support me. And exactly my therapists are like that. They will try to tell me how to surrender. They will teach me how to be patient, how to be loving to myself. So when I make that movement towards my father, seeing him as a whole human, with this wise part of him, with this nurturing part of him, with this critical and controlling part of him, when I see him with all his flaws, and when I'm able to make that internal movement towards him with all his flaws, essentially what happens is the rejection which I was doing internally, it starts dropping. The shadow self of mine starts dropping. I have never been at ease and at peace the way I am now. It's not that things don't bother me. I do get affected. It's like yesterday only, I got to know that a colleague of mine has bullied and bitched in the common circle, and I was made aware of this part, and momentarily I felt bad. I did felt bad because after all we are in the same circle, and we all are therapists and some of us are very good friends. So the news travels fast here as well. This is the human nature. And a moment I was really annoyed and irritated, and I was like, why is she doing so? And at the same time, a deep realization came that just because she's a therapist doesn't mean that she has worked on herself. Maybe this is an inner child of hers that's just showing up. And then I felt very comfortable in my body. And I literally told the person who told me everything. And I said, I'm really amazed by the insecurities people carry. And this allows me to reflect and see if there is inner child of mine who is fragmented still, who got affected by this criticism. Because maybe sometime in my life as a child, I was affected by some negative talk about me. And that stayed with me in my body. And that immediately became the reference point when this colleague of mine bitched about me. And I experienced those emotions. So a lot of shift starts happening. The way you see the world changes, your perception changes, the way you see yourself change. I mean, I was so happy that I didn't criticize myself. That why did I trust her? Oh, how can she say something about me? I didn't shame her, I didn't shame myself. That is what happens when you truly take in your father. Yes, in systemic work, we say that the way we receive our mother, we receive everything from the world. But when you go deeper, you will also realize the way you receive your father, it open your receiving. Because if I could not receive from my father easily, I will find it very difficult to receive from the world. I will feel a sense of obligation. I will feel like the need to repay it back in something. Like someone has gifted me something, I will immediately feel the need. My mind will start calculating how will I repay it back. Maybe I'll give something of this kind to this whenever I have a chance. This happens because inside I feel I am unworthy. And unworthiness not only is how our mother attuned, but also how our father attuned with us. So when you go deeper in the systemic work, you will realize that receiving is not only about mother only, it's about father as well. Another, I'm just going through this if I have not missed anything. Now, yes, Suba, please go ahead.
Sneha, one question here. When somebody gave me something, uh, does this come under like I feel deep down unworthy? That's why I want to give something same or more than that compensation, or does it come under like it's a classy thing to do, right? When you receive something, it's always about either giving that much or more than that. It's an elegant thing to do usually.
Because that has what been conditioned. Because even our parents were not healed enough to receive. Like, understand, receiving and giving has a different dynamics. If I'm receiving from an elder, I'm supposed to receive. There is no point in giving it back. If I'm receiving from a younger one, say suppose on Mother's Day, my children gifted me something. If I'm making it about myself, then I am not honoring the receiving. I'm not honoring the other person because I'm creating it and equating the gift with my worth, and I'm equating the gift with a way to pay back, to equate the other person's worth, then where is the honor and love and respect? For example, if I give someone something and I'm gifting it out of love, the joy is very different. I do not expect anything from that person, right?
But they might feel very happy to receive that from you and give it back to you, right? Something else which you might enjoy as much as they enjoyed when they saw
Then
it for
there
the
is
first
love.
time.
Then there is only love behind. Then there is
Got you.
no. So the intention is like, if that gift makes me feel overwhelmed, then I have difficulty in receiving.
Uh,
But if it gives me joy and I can sense the other person's feelings, then only joy and love is reciprocated, be it in the form of gift, be it in the form of other kind of contribution. Like
Thank
you
you. It
must,
makes.
yeah, thank you.
And one
Yes,
more question.
yeah,
You said whatever I rejected in my father is what I ended up seeing in all these important men who played a role in their in my life. And these are the men you choose. It's not you didn't choose your father, but these are the men consciously you
no.
choose in your circle.
We as a soul decided that this person will be my father. Your father didn't come after you, right? He came before. So,
Before.
what happens when you will go deeper into past lives? You will realize that you have certain lessons to learn, okay? And those certain lessons could only be learned through certain karmic patterns. And those patterns could only be understood if you have experienced certain experiences. And you can only do that when your soul consciously decides that this will be my father, this will be my mother, this will be my brother. In fact, people say, that friends are the relations that we choose by heart, but it is not true. Even those are karmically aligned. So, people who are good to you, you must have done something good to them in some of your past life, and they are paying their karma back to you.
Do we choose spouses also as a soul
Yes.
level before even being born?
Yes, yes, we do that.
Okay.
And our partner, and this will amaze you, that our partner also decides the moment that soul contract is made, that this person will be my partner. Our partner also signs up a contract where he decides to be a mirror to project all the wounds which we have inside us. Our children
Guilty
signs
them.
the contract that they will become the mirror and show all the unhealed parts of us. And that is why people start behaving very differently the moment they get married, the moment they have children.
This is making me ask you one more question. You can choose to say it's irrelevant now. I see many people having many relations before settling down with that one person or something like that. So you're saying all these relations were also like soul contracts before, okay, you'll be temporarily whatever it is.
Yes.
Bec-
So, Suma, I have read a very beautiful quote, and
Can you name it?
I don't remember the name of the quote. It's in Hindi, but I will recite it in Hindi first and then I'll convert it into English. It says, कोई तो लिखता होगा नसीब कागजों का भी, नहीं तो हर कागज रद्दी और हर कागज गीता नहीं बन जाता. It's like someone, some strong force is there which is even writing the destiny of a paper which is a man-made thing. Otherwise, one paper will not be considered as something to be discarded, and the other paper will not be considered as a sacred text. Right? So, when you will go and study past lives in detail, you will find that we also go and study those past lives when we were just a natural thing, but not a living thing, like a rock, pure consciousness. Okay, and from there also. So one stone is being worshipped in the temple, and the other stone is being kicked on the roadside. Okay, So, and that is the beauty of it. Like, if everything is decided, and there is one thing which is in our hands, that is free will. Even the lessons we are supposed to learn, we have to learn, but we can decide how quickly we learn, and that is their free will. The moment I exercise my free will, like I choose to heal myself, until and unless I learn this lesson that I have to accept every person who are as it is, without any filter, without any judgment, I may have to repeat this lesson multiple times. Like, the moment I learn it, I eventually graduate to another lesson. Similarly, all the relationships which I had is showing me something which I'm unable to look inside. The moment I look inside, I cease to have multiple relationships. Yes, Pyle has written this book name, and I love this book. This and Dr. Brian Weiss. I mean, you
Doctor?
will. Dr. Brian Weiss. One of the books are my favorite ones are One Life, Many Master, Multiple Lives, Multiple Masters, something like that. Many Lives, Many Masters. And you'll read it and you will be blown away by this. Pyle has
One
written
Life,
it in
Many
the,
Masters is by your doctor, some name you mentioned.
yeah, Dr. Brain Weiss. Brian Weiss, sorry. Yes, Sakshi.
Brian.
Um, the topic about the obligation factor that just kind of clicked for me because it's such a heavy feeling. And although I can relate that the conversation in my house is like whenever somebody, even in the family, would do something for them, the automatic response is वापस करना है.
Yeah.
And it is so damn ingrained. Like sometimes I feel like what you said is so true. We don't even pause to honor what somebody else is doing. The apprehension about why they're doing and the fact that we need to return it takes over everything that's happening at the moment. And then it's like I have seen it, it's such a huge issue with me to like I'm very grateful that I mean one thing that I manifest very easily is a gift from people. Even if like I don't want it just come, but they still feel heavy.
And Sakshi, why it feels heavy? While, if you just see it from a single lens, you may see that, it is difficulty in receiving, which is the mother wound. But if you will go deeper, one step ahead, you will find that I find it difficult to receive because I have not performed or achieved anything
Yeah.
to be worthy of receiving it. And this comes from that deep childhood training, which we all have gone through, especially in India, is if you do this thing, I will give you this. If you perform and secure first rank in the class, I will gift you a cycle. Like everything. And a child's brain does not understand, right? A child brain perceives gifts as a way of receiving love, right?
And although like in my case, I'm grateful, at least to whatever my memory is there about my childhood. I wasn't like my house is not a very performing house for me. Like I didn't have to perform so much for my parents. Jitni meri memory hai, again, like I'm also on my journey to go
Yeah.
deeper. But yes, I think the dynamics between my parents, I think that has gone into me way deeper than I think experiences of my own.
So, Sakshi, here I have a question. Was your mother a working woman or a housewife?
Housewife.
Was she dependent on her partner for
Yeah,
her financial
yeah,
needs?
yeah. And
And was this her feeling that since I do not earn, I have to keep on performing?
I learned it, I think when I started doing my inner work, oh God, it brings like a very heavy feeling. I just realized why did I hate house women at one point, like homemakers. And why did I always have to be like, no, I have to work, I have to earn?
Yeah.
And one fine day you sit down, you're like, where did I get all that burning motivation from? Where, like, I got divorced as well. And I was like, because I never liked that life. I always just wanted to go out and earn money. And it wasn't just, it's very painful to realize what you're carrying through your parents. एंड जिसको आप बता नहीं सकते उनको बोल नहीं सकते बिकॉज समझ तो बहुत दूर की बात हो जाएगी but the kind of impact their relationship have on us is next level.
And that is going to happen, Sakshi. If I have seen my mother, just like you, my mother was also a housewife, and my father was the bread earner of the family. And, I belong to a Marwadi setup where Marwadi community where women are expected to please men. And, my grandmother used to say that, my maternal grandmother, that a woman can only derive respect if her father is very wealthy or if her husband is very wealthy or powerful. That is the only way. And this was so ingrained in all the women in my entire lineage that they simply feel that they are unworthy because they could not earn. I am the first woman in my entire family who is earning. And then I have started, and then this trend continued. Now all the girls and all the women in the family are earning. But it is not coming from the space of that I want to do it for myself. It's like I want to prove something. And this proving is that, look, I'm not enough, and therefore I have to prove. And not being enough is not the feeling of the present moment. It's not that my partner is redirecting it. It's the not enough feeling is experienced by the child who was not enough for the parent to being their parent. Because our parents also dependent on us to parent them. Like were expected, like our generation is the one where our parents expected to become us to become adults in the children bodies. They expected us to understand and adjust in all the ways possible. And just like you, Sakshi, I just wanted to have a career because I hated this feeling of being financially dependent on my partner. And I saw that in my mother. I rejected her because she didn't had a big say in the household. And I didn't want that for me. And the more I did that, eventually I had to live that life. I had to live that pain of being financially dependent on my partner, of having no say. And that is what the journey is about, Sakshi. It's not that you have done something wrong. You had to learn it by living that phase of your life. That gave you an insight that there are so many women in this world who are financially dependent, who are so oppressed, who are so resentful inside, yet they cannot do anything on the outside. So
And
that is why, in systemic work, we say honoring the fate. It's not the honoring the fate of our ancestors alone, it's honoring our fate as well, the struggles we have endured, because this has shaped us for who we are. When we honor our fate, our children do not have to honor our fate. And that comes when you fall in love with your fate, with all the struggles, all the mishaps which had happened in your life. Yes, you were saying something. Sorry, I interrupted.
no. I think somewhere, I mean, thanks to some part of my family where this part came up very early that whatever happened happens for good. Now the language might be different, the way I
Yeah.
perceive the same might be different. But I think I do feel in a way grateful because I know if things wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am. And I love even after so much of pain, God knows what has happened, still I feel it. And I'm just collecting my thoughts. There was one more point that I was saying at that point. Just totally that kind of zoomed out. Oh yes, the part about identity and working. Like when I moved back from Dubai and I had to take like a year forceful break because of my health, and that triggered me so badly because I didn't know who I was without that working, that title, that identity. I think that, and I'm so grateful for that period because it pushed me to go so much in depth. That are we so like so superficial that if someone takes away a job, a title, and I feel like that's all, like I'm lost, I'm done. And those are the times where I started to question, like we can't be this, like if I lose this thing for some time, I go into so much of questioning. Like how is that we have no, like बोलते हैं ना अपनी worth without doing, just for existing हमारी worth ही नहीं है, and we have to keep doing something just to prove the world that no, we should, we, like now that I've proved myself, I can exist. I think that work started after I saw and I realized after that point, but it's still a very heavy journey in terms of, especially when you live with the same parents, where you see the same dynamics and the same things happening, and you realize that the women in front of you, like your mom, she's still struggling into like for her self-respect and worth. And I know there's that inner child in me that takes that pain as well because now she's in front of me again. But it's a lot of heavy work. एक तो अपना कर रहे हो, and then you are also seeing that dynamics in front of you. So that's quite a
And
work.
that is why, Sakshi, learning a skill is very different from doing the inner work. And this is what, if you will talk to Gaurav sir, he will always say that I'm helping you learn a skill, but is not equal to your healing. And especially when you're doing this work, which is going to trigger you on multiple layers, doing one-on-one work with someone is extremely beneficial because the depth you go inside is the depth you deliver to the client. Like, fortunately for me, I did 4 years of inner work, 3.5, 4 years of significant inner work, like 300, 350 sessions with my therapist before even jumping into the course. So the course never triggered me. I was able to finish inner child, TSM, and advanced ITC and mastermind all in 1 year without getting burnt out because my nervous system, because nothing was triggering me. What triggered me was that the way I behave with my children, because now I had this systemic lens, I could see how unknowingly as well I have passed that trauma to my children. But the beauty of this work is it allows you acceptance and grace. Then I really, that my children are just an extension of me. They are separate souls and they have to learn these lessons through me. And as far as the work you said, that identity, I don't know if you're a part of inner child work or not, but there we significantly work on identity. Why we cling to a particular, like, whenever you will ask someone, introduce yourself, they will say, I am this, and they will start telling about their professional. That I work in this company, I am a software developer, ye, wo, ye. Because we are married to that identity. And that happens. I just say I'm Sneha. And then if the person asks, what do you do? Then I tell them that because now they're inquiring about my profession. Otherwise, I just say I'm Sneha. I don't even say I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I mean, there are so many identities which we all carry, the roles we play. But we get married to a particular identity because it fulfills certain part of us. It makes us feel seen and heard. Like, I will never say I'm a wife. I'll introduce me like that. But I am a trauma therapist. I'll introduce me like myself like that. Why? Because it gives me a sense of recognition. It allows me to seen because that is how people see me. When you'll go deeper, then you will be able to connect on spiritual levels as well. And in spirituality, there is a beautiful term which is known as neti neti. I am neither this, I am not that. And this happens when we drop the value we have associated with that identity. And that happens when we have started valuing ourselves, when we know that we are valuable the way we are. And that can only happen when we go to those fragmented parts of us which was not valued because they could not achieve a certain thing. The moment we integrate that, what eventually happens is we are loved in all the forms. And that allows us to love ourselves. The moment we start loving ourselves, we start valuing ourselves, we don't need any identity to prove ourselves because the need of proving is long gone, right? It does show up. It's not that we are humans. We do crave attention, appreciation. We will crave this for lifelong because we are in this human experience. But at the same time, this will not mean a significant thing in our life. It will just be a part of it. And essentially, it is just a part of it. I mean, our work, our relationships are just a part of our life. It doesn't define us as a whole. So, the more we work on these aspects of us, and this cannot happen in isolation, like going back to the inner child will not have enough, it will not be enough because the child, while I'm saying so, and this you will realize as you'll keep on practicing this work, that going to the inner child is not enough because for a child, the parents are the center of their universe. They are the entire universe. So if my parent is happy, it is because of me. If my parent is sad, it is because of me. This is how the child's brain functions because it does not have a cortex, right? And if my parents are angry, it is because of me and I have made it about me. I need to see why my parents behaved the way they had. I need to go through psychomentium, which is seeing the inner child of the parent and seeing the circumstances that shape them for who they are from. Because the moment I see that, I am able to withdraw the personal judgments I had made for that event. Okay. And this work is a lifelong thing. I mean, you will discover layers, layers, and layers. And now I'm like, after, like, this is my 5th year of inner work as a therapist, as a professional therapist, it's my 2nd year, but inner work, it's been my 5th year. And the more I heal, the more I realize I don't know anything about myself because the new layers keep on showing up. Like your children show those wounded parts of you like anything. Your partner triggers you to another level. So, and that is the beauty of it. Like, I mean, just imagine how blessed we are because we are aware, we are doing this work, we are facilitating this work. And maybe this is one lifetime, but in our soul's journey, we may have progressed multiple lifetimes. We have learned multiple soul lessons in this one lifetime. Because without this inner work, this wouldn't be possible. Until unless you have gone through deep sadhana or tapasya, the way, certain rishis used to do when they could get that Brahma Gyan. Otherwise, it is the Brahm is within us. Namo Narayan. So, knowing ourselves is a journey in itself to the divine. Okay. Thank you for this question. I digressed a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, Payal.
So my question is that we're talking about receiving and how is the father, the relationship with our father impacts the creation of anything in our life, like
Okay.
creation of opportunities, creation of money, or creation of anything.
Okay. So, like, if we talk about the money and the opportunities, this is extensively which I'm going to do in my upcoming offering, Unlocking Abundance. This is all about it because money problems are of 5 kinds. One is creating money or opportunities. Okay. For example, No matter how much I do, I simply do not get the right people, right? I do not get it, the right opportunity. If opportunity comes, something happens in my life and I'm unable to explore it. There is no movement happening there. I'm putting up a lot of content, value, but no one is coming. That is creation of opportunities. The second form, it comes in the form of tapping of those opportunities. That people come, but they don't convert. Opportunities come, but that too doesn't get converted. The third thing comes when it comes to receiving, like what Sakshi shared, that receiving feels obligated. We feel unworthy of receiving until unless I perform or truly earn it. Receiving is not natural for me. Next, receiving comes because the other problem of receiving is when we feel that we are not getting the desired or the deserved amount. Right? I have put in so much of value, but I do not get paid for accordingly. This is another form of receiving problem. And the fifth is regards to with especially with regards to money is feeling safe. So when it comes to feeling safe, it is about retention money, retaining the money. That the moment the money comes, whether I'm able to enjoy it or I spend it, the moment the money comes, I have a spending list ready. I keep on taking loans, taking risky behaviors, right? Another form of retention could be hoarding, that I will just hold on to money. I will not use it. I will not spend it. And all these five problems are both related to the mom and dad. It's not individual, right? For simple, like when you learn the basic work, you might distinguish, and especially to people who have learned through it through masculine, feminine energies, they would like to differentiate it. That masculine is for creation, feminine is for receiving. But when you go deeper, you will realize that it is not only about how the father got the opportunities or not, but it is also about how repressed my mom was. For example, my father got an opportunity. This is a hypothetical example. So, my father got an opportunity to work somewhere outside. Okay. And that was the need of the hour. Okay. So, he had to go, and my mother had to support him in his decision. He had to go alone. Though he was able to tap into that opportunity, but me, as a descendant of both my mom and my dad, I may find that opportunity, but I'll not be able to tap into it because I'm also harboring the repressed feelings of my mother. Right? I'm also holding that anger, and therefore I reject that opportunity. So there is not a cookie cutter approach here that this comes from the father wound, this comes from the mother wound. These are general, very vague guidelines. When we say that the creation of opportunities, we are unable to tap into the opportunities because we feel less confident. It's not that we are not confident about skills, but we may not be confident about charging the money. For example, the kind of work I do, I may feel like charging X amount of money, but I have this belief in myself that no one will come and pay me this much. And therefore, I lower my prices and come to the world. So I'm coming from a repressed state. So that also affects the creation of opportunities. Now, the question is, why do I believe that I will not get people at my X desired level of pricing? The question, when I keep on exploring that question, there is again an inner child who felt that who is not worthy enough, who doesn't deserve enough. And that could come from a critical father in most of the cases. Or sometimes when the mother is too strict, it comes from the mother as well. Like I remember both the parents were highly critical. My father would like me to improve, and my mother would project her own inner children wounds on me, you're not going to do anything. तेरे से तो ये होना ही नहीं है, तू तो ये कर ही नहीं पाएगी, and stuff like that. She'll keep on saying. And so my low self-worth was from both. And therefore, when we work, we essentially first work on the mother, because mother in all possibilities, because she's the primary caregiver, she projects all her unmet needs on her first child. And therefore you will see first child is often the most, I would say the samajhdar bacha, the wise one, who understands everything, who is very, and the first child harbors the deepest anger. It's just that it doesn't get any opportunity to move out. The second child is usually the more bubbly one, because in that child, the mother sees the joyful parts of her as well. And therefore, I cannot work in isolation. Like if you will learn advanced ITC and if you'll go through TSM, since you are in TSM, if you'll go through that, you will see how both the parents are brought into the constellation. Maybe not in the single constellation, if it is too extensive, but I will approach the same problem with a second perspective from the father. Like when I do advanced ICC, we used to bring everything from the lens of both mother and father. That makes the work much faster. Because it is not only merging with what is happening with one parent, it is also merging with what the other parent has repressed. So when you talk about creation of opportunities, one is the confidence, which we need, the core. But to move to that level, we also need that core, right? For to work, we need that core, and that core comes from the mother. Second reason why it is said that, it comes as a father wound. And again, this is based on an hypothesis, which is widely accepted, because majority of the times it is the father who is the bread earner of the family, and he goes out in the world, and his experiences in the world, and in the process of making money for his family, whatever experiences he has, it settles inside him, which we carry. And therefore we also say that, a father takes out in the world. So if my father, this is the real fact, that my father was duped thrice very badly in his business, okay, at different ages. And I had gone through 3 different businesses before starting this one, every time making huge loss. Because his experiences, because he had framed a perception of the world based on his experiences, which also be coming from his own parents and his ancestors. He formed that people are going to cheat you. Money is evil. It is not safe. It's not easy to earn money. And like the previous businesses which I did, I experienced all of it. In the next webinar, which is the father who gave away everything, that is also coming from a very big part of my life. I will be discussing more about it in the next webinar, where I share the incidents where my father earns huge, but he literally donates 100% of his earnings. And now he expects us to do the same. Because his worldview is largely framed, and that view is passed on to us. So that is why, because the mother usually is in the house, right? And the father usually moves out. So this is the hypothesis on which it is based. But again, the work will be incomplete if I just, solely focus on the father. That because my client is facing difficulty in creation of opportunities, he's not able to find the right people, or he's not able to make the money the way he desires. If I just focus on the father, the work is going to be incomplete. Because the beliefs are also shaped by both the repressed feelings of my mom and my dad. And therefore, that is why we have to go back to the same belief again and again. And that is why it is called healing works in layers. Because one time I'm working it through the father's perspective, the other time I'm working it through mother's perspective, the same belief. Then I'm working it through identification, that whether I'm identified with any ancestor or not. Then I work through the rejection. Rejection is what? The repressed ones. Then I work it through the exclusion. Then I also work it through the break and bond and the in utero experiences. And that is why it is called working in layers. So hypothetically, you can say that because father takes us out to the world, creation comes from that. But again, money is an energy which allows me to feel in a certain way, right? Like the moment I say money, it brings certain kind of emotions inside you. It may be anger, it may be joy, it may be relief, it may be fear, it may be sadness, it may be self-worth, a power, feeling of power. So all these emotions are essentially experienced by my body, either through my lived experience or through the lived experience of my parents or ancestors. Until and unless I go to that, how am I going to release that belief from? And that is why thought work merely doesn't help. It can take you to a certain level, like the way Sakshi said that, I can manifest any gift I want. But the felt sensation will not allow you to enjoy it. I don't know if I've answered your question, Payal.
You have, because while you were speaking about receiving, I was just checking that for me, I am a great receiver in the sense that I can touch wood manifest anything, and I'm very open to receive, and I get things very easily. And yet creation is difficult for me. So that is why I wanted to ask, and I'm able to retain to a certain level. So is it a sequence, or because
What
I'm like,
exactly you find it difficult in creation?
I'm not consistent in my efforts, and I somehow don't find it important.
What happens when you are not consistent?
So
What is the benefit of not being consistent?
honestly, the state I'm in right now, I'm in a very comfortable zone because I am being taken care in all ways, in all possible ways. So what I feel is that maybe part of me which desires to go out, and I'm not sure whether that is my desire or a projected desire. Because I'm very happy doing my self work and my spiritual sadhana, and I'm on it on a daily basis without anybody saying anything. But when it comes to going out and offering my work, it requires a certain amount of push from my side. Now, I don't know whether this is a lack of confidence because I feel I'm confident. And yet, or is it just that I want to save myself? I'm not clear about that aspect. Or
Is
maybe
it
that's not even
because
the purpose. Maybe it's a projected desire. I'm not clear about whether this is my own desire or is just a projected desire, and I don't put my 100% because probably this is not my own desire itself.
It
I
could
don't
be.
know.
It could be. It could be just for your own learning. And probably that is the reason that you keep on experimenting different things and you do not continue it for long
No,
because
I continue in the sense that, see, it's this is my 18th year of learning all this, and without fail, nothing happens, in the sense that the earth would go down, up, whatever, but I will do my work, study whatever I'm supposed to study, I will do it. I will not go budge from that. And it's happening on a daily basis, and I can see that growth, and I'm very happy without about it. Very happy. I can be alone for days at home, and I can be very okay with it, just spending time reading, doing all that. And yet, while I'm going out, if I have to offer, I feel like, क्यों करना है?
and what is the thought behind it?
मुझे उसकी नीड नहीं समझ में आती। अभी मुझे लगता है, क्या वाकई में मुझे ये करना है? क्या ये करना चाहिए? Is it required? मतलब वो सब कुछ है, because I'm so comfortable in this zone that if going out is an effort of this zone.
Why do I sense, file and correct me, I could be wrong
Yeah.
here, that I see two versions of you. One, very content in whatever she has, and the other version, very lost because a part of her wants to offer it and experience it, and the other part struggles to be seen. Right? And this part probably contains those split inner children. One who just wants to experience this and she doesn't have any clue what she will achieve from it. And maybe, and I'm saying maybe because this is a possibility, that there could be an experience residing in your subconscious which said that what is the point of doing it if this is not going to help you? For example, if the performance is not equivalent to a particular result, that result will not help you in a certain way, then what is the point of trying? If that is the trauma triangle you're caught in. And the other part of that one, which is, and what is the consequence of this? That you are not allowed to be playful. When you say I'm content and yet I'm finding it difficult to offer, that means I'm not allowed to be playful, to just experience. Let's just experiment and see. I'm not allowed to fail, essentially. That if I offer myself and I will not be taken, I could not fail. Is that the central theme here? And therefore, in order to avoid that painful feeling, I will stay here and I'll question that maybe I don't need it. Because maybe as a child, I wasn't allowed to fail. Right?
That some sense of validation is definitely there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not able to figure that out. Maybe internally, I'm just figuring that out, in the sense that what is happening? What is happening? And maybe I'm waiting for that clarity to emerge from within.
You have done the basic family constellation. You can put it in the constellation. What is holding me back in putting out myself to the world? Maybe something which is subconscious will emerge. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Sakshi.
I thought I'll add something to Payal's point. It could be a redundant approach. What I have learned from my personal experience, and I know there could be number of factors, consistency, pay, anything that is outside of your comfort zone. Number of factors. Like I said, it could be a redundant approach, but what I have finally realized, because I'm amongst so many people who are working on themselves for like 10, 20 years. It makes me feel happy, but also a bit concerned that even after that long work, that basics of habit formation goes missing, because what I have figured out after a point, all the inner work will boil down to your habits. I said, like I said, it's a redundant approach, but that's what I have come to. क्योंकि आप सब कुछ कर लोगे, सब कुछ भी पता लग गया, and right now our coping mechanism has become more knowledge. जब तक मैं ये कर रही हूँ, मुझे sense of control है, I'll keep moving forward. But I have seen, like, one is fear of rejection. Like, जो, I know, like I said, it's a redundant thing, but if you use logic, it is fear of rejection. And like I have seen, I'm 37. कई बारी लाइफ में ऐसा लगता है 37 पे अच्छा आई जस्ट स्टार्टेड न्यू, क्यों ही करना है ना, अब क्या होगा. आई फील लाइक दीज इनर वॉइसेस आर वेरी जेन्युइन, बिकॉज हम जो लाइफ देख रहे हैं वो हमारे पेरेंट्स ने तो देखी भी नहीं है ना. दे वर लाइक 37 पे तो पूरे बच्चा पार्टी सब रेडी थी घर पे, दे वर बिजी इन दैट. सो वी आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग अ वेरी डिफरेंट लाइफ वेयर it's a bit tricky to keep finding things. And um, I'm not demeaning any learning methodology, any modality, but I think at the end of the day, it's about training your body for the emotions that you have not felt for a long time, and that majorly for me as a coach has come from habits. आप कर सकते हो, I mean, of course, that inner work, everything is required, but if you're coming at the point जब बहुत सालों के बाद नहीं आ रहा है, then it's just about becoming that reparenting your inner child, that I know you're not liking it, I know you're not wanting it, but like Sneha said, let's just allow ourselves to be playful. करके तो देखते हैं. इट्स लाइक जैसे छोटे बच्चे को कन्विंस कर रहे होते हैं ना रोज, एक एज के बाद आप वो अप्रोच से अपने आप को मोटिवेट करते हो, बिकॉज इट्स अ लॉट ऑफ नॉइस आउटसाइड एज वेल. सो आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट आई थॉट कि it is bit of working on the habits after a point to make sure that your body gets used to those feeling of whether it's like कोई reject करेगा, okay, I know how to handle failure, like, and जो भी बोलता है फेलियर से डर नहीं है, honestly, then many of us would have been trying a lot of things. It's just that we don't like that feeling. स्कूल में, कॉलेज में, पेरेंट्स, जब से शुरुआत होती है, एक ही टेस्ट, एक ही एग्जाम, एक ही बारी में क्लियर करना होता है. कोई बोलता है, पेरेंट खुश होता है, ओ मेरा बच्चा सेकंड टाइम देगा, वहीं से हमारे सेंस में फेलियर का डाल दिया जाता है. तो कैसे, इट्स जस्ट लाइक यूर ट्रेनिंग योर सेल्फ, ट्रेनिंग योर माइंड. Maybe if that helps you to see it differently.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't fully agree with this approach, not because it's a wrong one, but because it's like this, what you are talking about is more of that NLP, wherein you are training your neural linguistic pathways, okay? But that could help you in the shorter run, okay? It may help you to write that book, it may help you to go for that exercise, or maybe talk to that one client. However, what is essentially happening is all these coping mechanisms, this needs to be very clear, is that all the coping mechanisms are keeping us safe. Okay, we took that coping mechanism because it allowed us to feel safe. And it allowed us to feel safe because the sense of safety was lost in the first place. So, what is it which makes me unsafe in putting up my offering? It could be a fear of judgment as well, right? It could be that because I was being judged as a child, and this had been with one of my clients' experience, that she was judged so much now that she finds it very difficult to project herself as a therapist or a coach in the outer world. So until and unless that sense of safety is being bought, and that sense of safety can only be bought when you have relived that experience and released those energies from the body. Because cognitively, you know that what will happen at the max, that the client will reject, someone will judge me, and how does it really matter? You know it all cognitively, but the body's felt sensation is different. That itself indicates that there is a split. And when there is a split, we need to go to that split part in order to resolve it. And yes, after a certain point of time, you may not require this deep, full process. Now, like now I can do my own process. And it happens in like this. But till that time, and there are times when I'm stuck and I take help of my therapist. I keep on working one on one with my therapist because that allows me to see the parts of me which I'm not willing to see because the pain is very deep. Okay, so what you are experiencing, Payal, I would suggest to explore it rather than stay in this energy. Okay, because the more you will stay in this energy, what will essentially happen is that it will cause a lot of burnout and exhaustion. And by the time you have processed it, you may simply not have that zeal. Okay, so instead of staying in this energy, I would ask you to question it, explore it, and maybe you will find a lost inner child who was judged for trying so many different things. That could be a possibility. Maybe there could be an ancestral clock running. Okay, and maybe there could be a question on identity crisis. Like I said, when your father is highly critical or when he is not that strong pillar, what essentially happens is you start questioning your own self. And that questioning again can be a sabotaging behavior where I'm not allowing myself to explore. The playfulness can come only when the safety is restored. Like I have been part of ATEPs since a year. And every time Gaurav sir asked me to, play with your offers, play with your business, I wasn't able to do so because somewhere I was depending on my business in some way to provide that safety. The moment I resolved that, now I'm creating playful offers. I'm just playing with it. Now the energy is very different. So, what essentially I'm saying, Payal, is it's good to explore certain things just by staying in the energy of the question. But it is if it is coming as a part of self-sabotaging, it is coming on the by jeopardizing your growth, then probably you need to explore it. And the sooner you explore it, instead of staying in the energy of the question, let's stay in the energy of the resolutions. Okay. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that to me, the push approach somehow does not work. I'm continuously exploring in the sense, like one example that I didn't want to exercise or I didn't like exercising per se as a person. I walk, I run, I can do that. And I knew it for say 1.5 years that I wanted to do that consciously. And it's been last like this month that I've started doing it automatically. So whatever work that I was doing, it has automatically culminated into this action. So that is even like taking care of my skin or something. I didn't do it in the sense I was taking care of I take care of my food, everything, but not the skin. So when something comes into my observation or in the psyche that okay ये रह गया है या ये करना चाहिए, I don't push it. I don't know whether that's the right approach or not. कि नहीं नहीं मुझे करना है, अब तो दिमाग में आ गया, अब करना है. I feel let the body respond to that. And for this also, that's where I did like I started offering one-on-one in the sense I'm going to take sessions. And yet that playfulness is not coming.
Because somewhere I strongly feel that there is a deep seated subconscious belief with respect to being seen, the way you are saying. I didn't take care of my skin. I didn't take, good care of my health by working out. I am not offering myself fully to the world. So there is strong, deep belief with regards to seeing. Okay. And it is very different from what you are saying that I don't want to push myself, because pushing comes when something doesn't resonate with you. Right? When you are expected to do something and you are not feeling like doing it. Right? However, Playfulness comes when you have find that ease in yourself. Okay. And this journey, we have to make a conscious choice of exploring. This is what my approach is, that what is stopping me to experience this ease? If I don't have to offer it, let it be very comfortable in my body. I don't have to then, this thought will also not come. I'm not finding that ease. Like you said, that I'm not getting that clarity. That ease is not there. That means something is dis-ease in my body. And I'm just asking you to explore what is causing that dis-ease in your body. Because how I see, and since I know you in certain to a certain degree, while somehow I feel that it is coming from your father's space, who felt it difficult to be seen when he was going through difficult times in his life. When he couldn't offer himself fully to the world at large. I just have this hunch, okay? I may be wrong. And that's why I was forcing you to explore it. Because this is your life. You don't have to go through the same thing again to keep him in his life.
Thank you. I will do that.
Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions? I have some messages. I'll go through it. Okay. Any other questions or sharings?
Question. When we
Suma, your
so
voice is breaking.
uh,
Suma, your voice is breaking.
is it all?
No, it is not.
Is it now?
No, Suma, it's
No,
breaking. Is it my internet or is it Suma's?
I think mine.
Now it is fine, Suma.
Okay. Uh, when we reject parts of our parents, uh, when we use the word merge, it's like we see those parts in our partners and our friends and all, and also we see those parts in us also. Is this what
Yes.
merge is, or merge is only when we see the parts in us?
Merging will happen both internally and externally.
Okay, then this
Internally,
is
we will
merge.
start behaving exactly the
Like them.
way they did.
We,
Externally, we will
uh,
also get the similar experiences, which will inflict that reaction from the other person or from inside us.
and when we say the same thing, like other than our parents, if we are bringing this unconscious loyalty or patterns from anybody other than our parents, it is called
Mhm.
identification, right?
Other than parents, it is called identification. This Gaurav sir has distinguished, okay,
Ah,
for the
yeah,
sake of understanding.
okay.
But
And
identification could happen because of rejection of some person. It could happen because of merging. It could happen because of something which was unexpressed or suppressed, or something which it also could happen
repressed.
identification when there is a perpetrator victim dynamic involved, when there is an exclusion involved. So identification could happen because of multiple reasons.
Okay. And
Identification
can this
could also happen outside the family system.
huh? And that outside the family system because of the perpetrator dynamics which happened
Yes,
a
because
generation
of the
ago or two
perpetrator
generations ago.
victim dynamic, or it could also be because if someone from our family, or if someone, if even if it is not perpetrator victim dynamic, so for example, long time standing servants
Hmm.
who have dedicated a good part of their life to us, we
Hmm.
can be identified with them as well. Like
Okay.
I was
Okay. Okay.
identified with my grandmother's nanny. I shared an
It's
entanglement with
more.
her as well.
Okay. And can these identifications be inners or internally only, or can they be externally also as an experience?
So it is inside us, it is inside our body, and that is what we are accessing. We are accessing the genetic memory, right? It is in our genes.
Yes.
However, some genes are dormant, just like we all have a genetic formation of tumors. But for
Mm-hmm.
some of us, it will become active, some of us, it will remain inactive, right? Similarly, certain
Mm-hmm.
genetic memories are dormant till the time an external event triggers it.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
thank you so
certain
much.
external circumstance may trigger that dormant memory and then it becomes active.
Uh,
Okay,
Either external or something like, okay, when if my grandfather expired around 20 years, I
the
might feel those
entanglements
things.
are always internal. Suma, everything, understand, everything is internal. And that is why we
Okay.
work on our internal landscape. What happens is the external environment becomes as a catalyst for seeing our
Okay.
internal environment.
Thank you. This makes sense. Thank you so much for clearly making me understand.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay, then I'll wrap up. Thank you so much for your time and patience. I have exceeded the time, and thank you for being there.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. Bye.
You're welcome.
Happy
Bye.
weekend.
Take care. Yeah. Happy weekend.